Let's begin with some breaking news coming in at this hour. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he's in contact with Israel and U.S. President Donald Trump on the ongoing war. He also says that it would be right to ensure security of Israel as well as Iran's interests, and the decision should be taken by Iran and Israel. First of all, and then Russia has conveyed their ideas to their partners. Once again, this is from Russia, and the President, Vladimir Putin, says that he is in contact with both Israel and the United States on the ongoing war. He says that it would be right to ensure security of Israel as well as Iran's interests, and the decision should be taken by Iran and Israel first of all, and Russia has conveyed their ideas to their partners. Mr. Scott Lucas is a professor of international politics, Clinton Institute, University College Dublin, is now joining us live from Ireland. Mr. Lucas, thanks for joining us and making time for us. Let's start by decoding the stance by the IAEA, because it is very important at this juncture. The Director General says that we did not find in Iran elements to indicate that there is a systematic plan to build a nuclear weapon, but Iran is angry that the agency has not condemned Israel for targeting their nuclear facilities, because under international law and the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, attacking nuclear sites is banned.
So let's start with the first part of that statement, because it's very important in the wider context. The United Nations Atomic Energy Inspectors say Iran has not been pursuing a nuclear weapon. U.S. intelligence services say that Iran has not been pursuing a nuclear weapon. The U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has said Iran is not pursuing a nuclear weapon. However, as you just reported, Donald Trump says Iran is not only pursuing a nuclear weapon, but is only a few weeks away from it. So I just want to establish that the world's nuclear experts say Iran, while developing a nuclear program, and indeed while being in violation of IAEA regulations, that Iran is not pursuing the nuclear weapon, which is the stated cause for the Israeli war. And why the U.S. might join that war. Now, the second part of this, Iran's case is that if we are not pursuing a nuclear weapon, we're not an immediate threat. You do not have cause to attack our sites for our nuclear program. But I'll state the obvious. Israel is not a party to the IAEA. Israel does not declare its own nuclear weapons. So Israel is not going to accept the authority of the IAEA. They're going to attack anyway. The question is, will other countries in the world not only criticize the Israeli war, but do something to try to limit it?
Mr. Lucas, could that be the reason why Iran is threatening to leave the NPT treaty? And what happens when it does?
Well, we're a long way away from talking about Iran leaving the NPT, because the immediate issue here is a war and how far it goes, including the attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities. Certainly, at least Iran's parliament, because the Iranian leadership hasn't stated a position on this, but certainly Iran's parliament was going to make a public show like this, given that the attack has been so widespread on Iran, and given that Iran's own retaliation has not been that effective. It's not stopping the Israelis. So it's sort of, the NPT is a very serious treaty. It's a very important treaty to limit nuclear weapons. But in this case, Iran's position is symbolic more than anything else.
Mr. Lucas, so what happens next? Because now we see that Iran has asked the United States president for an year. They want to talk to the United States president Donald Trump has been saying that he doesn't want to engage right now because it's too late, but he keeps on changing his statements and he keeps on changing his narratives. What do you think could happen next?
First, let me say two important things because we need to try to get reliable information. First, Donald Trump makes things up. Iran did not ask for a direct meeting with Donald Trump. What Iran did, and we have multiple sources on this, was to approach intermediaries, especially the Gulf states, who had been brokering the U.S.-Iran negotiations. And Iran approached them to say, can we find a way out of the Israeli attacks? Mm-hmm. Now, that might have led to a meeting with Donald Trump, but that is not what happened. Secondly, Donald Trump is enjoying playing the big guy here. Maybe he'll go to war, maybe he won't. And Israel has exploited that. Mm-hmm. Israel played Donald Trump by saying, oh, you've been negotiating with Iran, but Iran's not going to accept your negotiations. You'll get your deal if we attack them. And Trump bought that. So where are we right now? The Wall Street Journal is reporting tonight from, quote, people familiar with the discussions that Donald Trump has approved of attack plans by U.S. forces alongside Israel on Iran, but has not decided to implement the plans. Mm-hmm. In other words, Trump, having been played by the Israelis, now gets to play the big guy and keep not just Iran, but the rest of the world in suspense as to whether U.S. forces who are needed by the Israelis to hit Iran's fortified underground nuclear facility at Fordow, mm-hmm. whether U.S. forces will in fact not only support the Israelis in terms of approving of the Israeli attacks, but actually join in as well.
Mr. Lucas, finally, very quickly, what if that plan happens?
We're in the uncertain territory. Just consider that in the last few months, we've been in the uncertain territory of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We've been in the uncertain territory of Israel and Pakistan having a confrontation. We're now in the uncertain territory that there is an ongoing war in Gaza, and now there is an ongoing war by two states armed with nuclear weapons, Israel and the United States, against Iran. Mm-hmm. What do the Gulf states do? What does Europe do? Indeed, what does India do? Mm-hmm. This is uncharted and dangerous territory, possibly the most danger the world has been in since the end of World War II.
True. Mr. Scott Lucas, I'll not let you go right now. Stay with me because we have some more breaking news coming in at this hour. Sirens sound or have sounded in Ashkelon, Ashdod, Tel Aviv and surrounding areas in Israel after a fresh salvo of Iranian ballistic missile attack. Once again, we are receiving reports from Israel, and the sirens have been sounded in Ashkelon, Ashdod, Tel Aviv and surrounding areas in Israel after a fresh salvo of Iranian ballistic missile attack. And this is a post from the Israel Defense Forces that put out a post indicating some of the areas which they believe the missiles are headed, and sirens have been sounded in some of these areas, which include Ashkelon, Ashdod, Tel Aviv, and surrounding areas in Israel after fresh salvo of Iranian ballistic missile attack. And this is a post by the IDF on X. Mr. Scott Lucas, coming back to you, there's a lot of speculation on what happens next. I know I did ask that question, but let's just decode that for our viewers. What do you think or believe could happen now that the United States has completely been drawn into this conflict?
So the starting point for this is the stated reason for the Israeli war, which is Iran's nuclear facilities. The specific reason why the U.S. military is brought in is because Israel has attacked some of Iran's nuclear facilities. They've attacked the uranium enrichment facilities at Natanz. They've attacked the nuclear production facilities in Isfahan, but they cannot reach the Fordo uranium enrichment facility. This is a facility that makes uranium up to 60%, not the 90+% needed for military use, but potentially could be developed further for it. That Fordo plant producing that uranium is deep inside a mountain. To hit that facility, you need something like a bunker buster bomb, 500-pound bomb. That bomb is something only the United States has. So that's why the Israelis need the Americans in on a military point. But I think they need them in for something wider. And that is the Israeli aim now is far beyond taking out Iran's nuclear facilities. They are trying to break the Iranian leadership. They may not call it regime change, because I don't think Iranians themselves would rise up to get rid of their leadership. But they're trying to make Iran so dysfunctional that its services can't operate, its economy can't operate, that its security forces can't maintain order, that the country just falls apart. They would like to get the U.S. in to pursue that wider aim. One fact which came out, it's in the New York Times, who've gotten this information from people who were involved in the plan, is that Israel made the decision to launch this war against Iran last December, or they began planning for it. And they began planning for it significantly just after they had been at a war in Lebanon. Because what they did in Lebanon was break the leadership of Iran's ally Hezbollah. And they almost broke Lebanon, the country, bringing it to its knees. And there's a logic there. If we can break Hezbollah, whom we have fought for decades, if we can almost break a neighboring country, Lebanon, perhaps we can succeed in doing it with Iran. But to do that, Israel, which is largely isolated internationally, would like to have an ally. Who is that ally? Well, the world's largest country economically, the United States.
Right. Mr. Scott Lucas, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time and for talking to WION World is One today.
Thank you.